All right, ready to dive in? Today we're tackling Million Dollar Weekend by Noah Kagan.
Sounds good.
This book's packed with practical advice for, well, anyone who wants to build a successful business. I mean, really practical, like hit that $1 million mark kind of advice.
Yeah, and what I like about Noah's approach is that he really pushes you to, just start doing instead of getting stuck in planning mode.
It definitely speaks to the doer in all of us. And Noah really gets that because he goes straight for those fears that I think hold a lot of people back. That fear of starting and the fear of just asking. We've all been there, right? Like frozen by what ifs or terrified of hearing no.
Oh, absolutely. That's so common. But what Noah does, and it's kind of brilliant, is he flips the whole rejection thing on its head. He doesn't just say, get over it. He actually wants you to, embrace it. Set rejection goals, just like his dad did.
Rejection goals.
Yeah, his dad sold copiers, and he actually had a goal for how many no's he wanted to get.
I've never heard of that. That's fascinating.
It is. It's about changing how you see rejection, making it part of the process. Like, the more no's you get, the closer you are to a yes. And each no teaches you something.
So you kind of get guided towards success by the no's?
Exactly. And Noah has this challenge, the coffee challenge, to help people really get this mindset shift. Super simple, but effective. He wants you to go to a coffee shop and ask for a discount.
Okay, that makes me a little nervous just thinking about it.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
It's about pushing past your comfort zone. It builds up what Noah calls your ask muscle. And you need that as an entrepreneur, to ask for funding, for partnerships, to make sales.
It's like training for a marathon, but for your, mental toughness.
Exactly. And it's low stakes. Coffee's not a huge deal, so it's a safe way to practice asking and get used to hearing no.
This is a perfectly example of Noah's now, not how philosophy. It's all about action, learning by doing, not getting stuck overthinking things, which I think is such a trap for new entrepreneurs.
It is. And that now, not how habit is more than just like a cool saying. It's about changing how you approach everything.
Yeah.
Embracing that things won't be perfect. Being okay with experimenting and figuring things out along the way.
I know personally, sometimes the hardest thing is just starting. But once you do, even a small step, you start to figure things out as you go.
Exactly. It's like that saying, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step.
Love that. Okay, so we've talked about facing those fears, building that ask muscle. Now for the real meat of $1 Million Weekend, coming up with those money-making ideas. And what's really interesting is that Noah didn't start with some big grand plan or tons of market research. He just focused on fixing problems that he actually had in his own life, things he would have paid to have solved.
Yeah, and that's such a good lesson. Like, your own experiences could be a gold mine of ideas. Think about it. What are some things that bug you in your everyday life? Are there things you wish were easier, problems you'd pay to have solved?
I never thought of it that way, but it makes sense. Noah created AppSumo, he calls it, the Groupon for geeks, because he was frustrated with how expensive software was. He wanted deals on the tools he needed.
Exactly. And he ended up filling a need that a lot of people had. That's that customer-first approach. Figure out what your audience really needs and build from there. Don't try to force something onto people.
So before we even think about market research, we should ask ourselves, what problem do I really care about solving? And are there people out there who have that same problem and would pay for a solution?
That's it. And to make sure your idea can really become $1 million business, you need to think about the market. Noah calls them tidal wave markets. Markets that are growing fast and can carry your business to success.
Like, think about the rise of e-commerce or how online learning platforms exploded. Those were huge waves that a lot of smart people rode to success.
Exactly. But how do you find those tidal wave markets now? What are the next big things? That's the tricky part.
It's like surfing. You got to spot the wave before it gets too big and be ready to ride it.
One way is to look for places where tech is changing how things are done, or even creating whole new categories. Like, look at artificial intelligence. It's changing healthcare, finance, even art.
Oh, and think about sustainable products and services. That's only going to get bigger.
Sure. And Noah uses this funny example, a Vietnamese faux broth subscription service, to explain market analysis.
Wait, a subscription for faux broth? Okay, I'm listening.
Great. It might not be $1 million idea, but it shows you how to think about things. Like, how many people might buy it, how much could you charge, how would you get it to them?
It's funny, but it makes sense. You have to understand the numbers and if people actually want what you're selling.
Totally. And connecting it back to the bigger picture, it's about matching what you love and what you're good at with a market that wants what you have.
Okay, so let's say you've got a problem you're passionate about and you've checked the market and there's demand. What's next? Do you website, get business cards, all that.
Hold on. Before you go spending all your money, Noah says it's time for a 48-hour money challenge. Basically, a super fast validation sprint.
A validation sprint. Tell me more.
This is where you see if your idea actually works in real life. See if people will pay for it before you go all in on building it. Noah's sumo jerky experiment is a great example of this.
Sumo jerky. All right, I gotta hear this.
Okay, so Noah thought about selling beef jerky, but instead of getting all fancy with packaging and finding suppliers, he decided to see if anyone would actually buy it first. He just put together a pre-order offer for sumo jerky, told his network, and waited.
What happened?
He made over $4,000 in pre-orders in a weekend. And he didn't spend anything on inventory or marketing. It was all about validating the idea and seeing if people actually wanted it.
Wow. That's a serious lesson in taking action, not just thinking about it. You don't need a perfect website or product to test things out, just a clear offer and a little hustle.
And what's great is that Noah gives you different ways to validate your idea. It's not just one thing. He talks about direct pre-selling, using online marketplaces, and even trying out virtual products.
So you have options, like a whole toolkit for testing your idea. That's awesome.
Right. He even has this story about Dana, a student of his, who validated her horse care business by pre-selling. And get this, she didn't even have a finished product yet.
Okay, now I have to hear about this. What was she selling?
So Dana, she's really into horses, and she figured out this unique way to treat a hoof problem that's pretty common. She didn't have a physical product ready, but she put together this offer for a personalized consultation and treatment plan and pre-sold it to people she knew who had horses.
So she basically sold her expertise before even having a product. That's smart.
Exactly. It shows that sometimes your knowledge is your most valuable thing. If you know how to fix a problem people have, you can start making money even before you have a product.
I love that. It's so empowering. It means anyone with a passion and some skills can test their ideas.
And speaking of testing, Noah really emphasizes using your existing network to get those first sales and feedback. He calls it your Dream 10 list. It's those people closest to you, the ones most likely to support you early on.
Dream 10 list. I like that.
Right. It's about those people who believe in you, who are willing to try your idea, even when it's just starting. They'll give you great feedback and be your biggest cheerleaders as you grow.
How do you figure out who's on your Dream 10, though?
Think about the people who fit your target audience. Are they dealing with the problem you're trying to solve? Do they like your solution? Would they pre-order from you, even if things aren't perfect yet?
So it's more than just friends and family. It's about who would really benefit from your idea and wants to see you succeed.
Exactly. And it's not about taking advantage of them. It's about giving them a chance to be part of something exciting that you're building.
Okay, so now let's say you've tested your idea, you're making some money, things are looking good. How do you keep growing? How do you build a community that'll support you long term?
This is where Noah really gets into building a loyal following, not just customers, people who believe in what you're doing. He even tells this story about how he raised $30,000 for a charity just by reaching out to his fans.
Wait, $30,000 just from his fans? That's crazy. How?
He just emailed his list, explained the cause, and asked for donations. And people responded like crazy. It showed how powerful it is to have that genuine connection with people who trust you.
So it's about relationships, building a community around your brand, not just selling stuff.
Right. And that's where the content circle framework comes in. Creating content that really speaks to your audience, starting with your core fans, the ones who love everything you do.
What if you don't have those core fans yet, though? How do you even find them?
That's a good question. It starts with knowing your ideal customer really well. Who are they? What are their struggles? What are they passionate about? Once you know that, you can create content that they'll actually care about.
So it's about targeting your message, not just throwing it out there to everyone.
Exactly. And to really stand out, you need to find your unique angle, what makes you different. Noah uses this example of Ben Kenyon. He's a performance coach, and he found his unique angle was helping people dominate their life.
It's amazing how a simple phrase can, sum up your whole brand and attract the right people.
For sure. And once you have those first fans, you need to keep building that relationship, building trust, and email is a great way to do that.
Oh yeah, let's talk about email. Noah is a huge fan of building an email list. He even tells this story about how one email, I think he called it the boner email, which is hilarious, took AppSumo's revenue to a whole new level.
The boner email is classic. It just shows how powerful humor and personality can be, how it helps you connect with people.
Isn't that kind of risky, though? Using that kind of language, it could backfire.
It could, definitely. But for AppSumo, it was a risk that paid off. You have to know your audience, your brand, before trying something like that.
So be funny, be yourself, but make sure it fits with who you are and who you're talking to.
Exactly. And what's interesting is how Noah points out that your email list is actually more valuable than, like, a ton of social media followers.
Really? Why is that?
Because you own your email list. You control how you talk to people. You're not relying on social media algorithms that change all the time, and you can build those relationships over time.
That's true. We get so focused on social media, but those platforms can change the rules whenever they want. With email, you have that direct connection.
He even has this 4-step process for turning social media followers into email subscribers and then into customers.
Okay, tell me more about these steps.
First, you got to create a lead magnet, something valuable that people will give you their email address to get. It could be an ebook, a checklist, a template, even a discount.
So give them a reason to join your list, not just ask them to.
Right. Then you promote it on your social media, use good visuals, make it sound exciting, tell people exactly what to do.
Makes sense. Then what?
Next, you have a welcome email sequence. These emails introduce your brand, give value, and start building trust. It's your first impression. Show people you're not just going to spam them.
It's like nurturing those relationships from the very beginning.
Yeah. And finally, keep sending valuable content to your list. Blog posts, videos, podcast episodes, even just personal updates. Stay top of mind and make sure people are glad they're on your list.
It's a long game building an email list, but it seems like it can be really worth it.
Totally. And once you have that list, it's all about trying things out and finding what works. Noah tells this great story about Daniel Bliss. He was a postal worker who started this belay shades business. He used a really smart approach to testing different marketing ideas.
Belay shades, what are those?
They're sunglasses made for rock climbers. And Daniel's story is a perfect example of how planning and experimenting can pay off. He didn't have a lot of money to waste, so he figured out a way to prioritize and test different marketing channels, starting with the cheapest ones.
So he didn't just randomly try things. He had a system.
Exactly. He started with free stuff like social media and guest blogging, and then moved on to paid advertising once he knew what worked.
Smart. It shows you don't need a ton of money to get started, just a willingness to learn as you go.
And on top of getting customers, Noah really emphasizes making your first 100 customers super happy.
Just the first 100. Why is that number so important?
Those are your early adopters, the ones who trust you before anyone else. If you make them happy, they'll tell their friends, and that word-of-mouth marketing is super powerful.
It's like creating fans who will spread the word for you.
Right, and you can't buy that kind of marketing. It's the best kind.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. Facing fear, coming up with ideas, checking the market, building community, even email marketing. But here's the big question. What does all this mean for the listener? What if you do all that, build the business, make the money, have the community, and you still feel like something's missing?
That's when Noah gets really real in the book. He talks about how he felt kind of empty, even though AppSumo was successful. He realized that there's more to life than just hitting those financial goals.
It's about more than just the $1 million business. It's about the $1 million life.
That's it. Designing a life that you actually love, that matches what you truly care about.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that. We get so focused on the hustle that we forget to check in with ourselves and see if we're actually happy.
Yeah, it's easy to lose sight of that. And that's where Noah's 52 Chances idea comes in. It's about taking your dream year and breaking it down into weekly goals. Instead of waiting for someday, he's saying, start living your dream life now, 1 week at a time.
I love that. It makes it feel less overwhelming, like what's one small thing I can do this week to get closer to where I want to be?
Exactly. It's those small steps that add up. And Noah even shares his own calendar system, how he makes time for everything that matters, both work stuff and personal stuff.
It's about putting it on the schedule, those things that are important to you, whether it's family, hobbies, or working on that passion project.
Right. Making sure what you do every day matches the life you want to live. And Noah talks about how important it is to have people around you who get it, who support you.
Oh, that's huge. Having people who believe in you makes a world of difference.
He talks about finding an accountability buddy, someone who will help you stay on track with your goals.
I have one, and it's amazing. We check in with each other, celebrate wins, help each other out when things are tough.
It's like having a cheerleader and a therapist all in one.
Totally. And Noah also talks about connecting with prefluencers, people who are on a similar path as you, but maybe not super famous yet.
It's not about networking with people who are already at the top. It's about connecting with people who are going through the same journey.
Supporting each other, growing together.
Exactly. And to wrap things up, Noah tells this really touching story about his dad. His dad was dying, and even then, he didn't seem that impressed with Noah's success. It's like he was more focused on everyday things.
Oh,
It's a reminder that what other people think doesn't really matter. Real fulfillment comes from doing what matters to you, living a life you're proud of.
such an important message, especially now when everyone's telling us what success should look like.
It's about defining success for yourself. What makes you happy? What gives your life meaning?
So, to wrap up our deep dive into Million Dollar Weekend, let's remember, building a successful business or just a successful life, it's a journey. It's about always learning, trying new things, and having those people around you who matter.
Don't be afraid to fail, take action, and make time for the things that bring you joy.
And one last thought. What does success mean to you? What can you do today to start building that life you really want?
Remember, you've got 52 chances this year.
That's it for our deep dive into Million Dollar Weekend. Hope you got something out of it. Go out there and start building your dream life, one week at a time.